The first thing you want to do is summon the Diet and then pick whichever mission you feel is the best for you. Afterwards, you want to get 5% more crownlands, and then when it comes to the privileges, we're going to give the nobility the right of council, supremacy over the crown, and monopoly on livestock, and we're going to leave the 4th privilege slot empty because we will get the strong duchies privilege once we have our first vassals. When it comes to your clergy, you want to give clerical advisory council, oversight by the clergy, monopoly on wool, and monopoly on wine. Burghers will be getting clerical advisory board, free enterprises, and monopoly on glass. Austria starts off with 2 scripted advisors, Niklaus von Kues and Ulrich von Echzing. They're both quite good advisors and they're 50% off, so with the 25% extra that you get from the privileges, these guys are super cheap for you at the very start, considering that they're a +2 and +3 advisors. The production guy isn't really for your production since most of the production has gone away to the monopolies, but he is definitely there to boost up your admin power in the early game. Whilst the improved relations guy is going to prove extremely useful when it comes to improving relations with at least 5 electors, since that is one of your first missions. As for the military advisor, you can choose whoever you want. There's no scripted advisor, so it's really quite RNG. You should encourage development in the Tyrol state, and then you should start deving up the province of Intal. Once it reaches 10 production, you should stop, since above 10 production has a high chance of depleting the gold mine, which is something that you don't want to see. Army wise, you want to get your first army to 12-4 and the second one to 9-2. This is simply because you don't have so much manpower at the start, but you will be getting manpower super fast since you are the emperor and you're getting a lot of manpower recovery per month. Another thing you should do to boost your army is hire the free company. They are cheaper than your average units by 25% and come with their own manpower pool, so are definitely worth using in the early game. Talking about your diplomatics, you would really like to get an alliance with Burgundy that eventually will lead to a royal marriage as well. Take note that Burgundy doesn't always ally you. Most of the times they will actually rival you, so it is quite RNG. If you'd like to get the Burgundian inheritance, then you will have to restart until they are friendly towards you and rivaled France. Another really great alliance early on is actually Poland, but this also doesn't always happen. If it does, go for it. If it doesn't, your best bet would be getting allies within the HRE, and namely the electors. As Austria, it is vital that you keep the electors in check, and the best way to do so is by allying them. I would start off with Brandenburg, as well as Mainz and Köln. Another really great alliance to have early on, but one that you should be dropping afterwards, is Milan, simply because you have a common enemy, which is Venice, and if you do ally Milan, it's going to be easier attacking Venice since they will definitely join for their 2 cores in Brescia and Bergamo. When it comes to your rivals, always rival the Ottomans, since these are going to be your biggest rival and biggest threat in the Balkan Peninsula. And as a second rival, if you have the option of rivaling Lithuania and it doesn't impact your relations with Poland, do it, since they're going to be in a PU with Poland eventually, so that means you're going to get power projection for free once they are not an independent nation. As a third rival, always go for Venice, simply because you want to take the Venetian land. It is also highly advised that you integrate 2 of these 3 bishoprics next to you, namely Passau, Salzburg, and Trent. The easiest to do would be Trent and Salzburg, because Passau is in a personal union with Munich, and that would get you into a war with them. Before the first month ends, make sure you start building a spy network in Venice and another one in Trent. If the Papal States have not rivaled you, it is highly advised that you start improving relations with them, not only because you get a chance of becoming the Curia controller, but also you can integrate them within the HRE without having to go to war with them. Do not forget on the 12th of December to get a royal marriage with Burgundy, and I also highly recommend bestowing imperial grace on pretty much all of the electors. Using up the initial 20 imperial authority that you have is extremely good, since it means that you can get the first mission done, secure electors, quite fast, and thus you can get the casus belli on Bohemia. You can easily do the Secure Electors mission by February 1445 by going a bit over your Diplo relation slots, which is going to grant us the personal union on Bohemia. Usually they ally some OPM within the HRE, or sometimes they even ally Hungary, which can be an issue, but it doesn't always happen. Declare the war for restoring the union, and try and focus on getting their forts first. Do not be worried about them going into your country and sieging you down, because that is not a massive issue, especially since your forts are mostly in mountain areas and thus have some extra protection. You can, however, issue the defensive edict, which is going to improve the defensiveness of your fort by 33%. Keep in mind that whenever your king dies, or better yet the emperor dies, you get 10 imperial authority and your heir is going to be elected the new emperor. So make sure that you always have a male heir. Once you have 60% war score, you can get the union with Bohemia, but I suggest going for 100% so you can also get the cash from them as well and pay off your loans that you probably will have taken during this war. After we get Bohemia in a union with us, we can enact the mission Control Bohemia. That's going to give us some legitimacy and imperial authority growth plus 10% for 15 years. There is also a chance that you will be getting a PU Casus Belli on Milan from the Milanese succession event. And if you are not allied to them like I am, you can just declare on them and get a PU over them. But my priority would definitely be Hungary, since now that we have above 218 dev, which is how much Hungary has at this point, we can get the Restoration of Union CB on Hungary. Enact this, and that means you have a clear path towards attacking Hungary, which right now only has Trent as an ally. So attacking both of these would be a good idea. We can even call in Poland since we managed to ally them before. Before you do attack, don't forget to get the claim on Trent, which you should have by now since we were claiming this for a while now. There is a chance that you actually can get Hungary in a PU with you without having to go to war with them through an event that happens once Ladislaus Postumus von Habsburg ascends to the throne of Hungary. This is the same heir that you have as well. So if you like to wait until the 1450s when the event actually happens, then it is completely up to you, nothing wrong with it. But do take into account the fact that almost always Poland likes to declare war on Hungary so that they can take some lands in the north of Hungary here, namely in Slovakia. I personally like the more aggressive approach through which I declare war for the restoration myself. But as I said, nothing wrong in waiting for the event to happen. It's less AE, but it also is 25% chance of you actually getting that PU. Make sure before you declare war that your army is ready for it, and also ensure that you don't have too high relations. If you do have high relations, you get -1 stab, so in order to avoid that, simply send them an insult. If you're lucky enough and they allied Trent, do remember to co-belligerate them so you can also annex Trent in the same war. In the 1.30 patch, you're always gonna get the East Asia offers to join the Empire event. Definitely accept them so they can become part of the Empire. This also means that nations such as England and so on cannot diplomatically vassalize the nation so easily. Having Trent's gonna make it much easier since it is one of our missions to take Trent, Salzburg, and Passau, or at the very least 2 of these 3, so that we can enact the mission. If Hungary is at war with the Poles when you declare the personal union, make sure that you take the bordering provinces with Poland. The Poles will not be taking any provinces from the Hungarians, but will most likely just take monetary reparations or something of the sorts. Make sure that you wait until the Poles peace out Hungary so that you don't end up in a war against Poland, or if you like to end up in a war against Poland, then you can peace out the Hungarians now, and that means you are in a defensive war, and as such it would be less AE taking Polish provinces. After the Poles have pieced out the Hungarians, you can get your own peace treaty going. Getting the PU is only going to cost you 60% war score, so you can get quite a bit of cash from the rest of that. Having Hungary in a PU under you also means that you can enact the Royal Hungary mission that is going to give you permanent claims on Slavonia, Croatia, and Dalmatia. If Hungary kept their PU with Croatia by the time you attacked, it also means they have a PU over Croatia now. There is a chance that Hungary is actually going to inherit Croatia, and if that is the case, that means you inherit Croatia because Hungary is your junior partner. After you've had time to recover from the plentiful wars that you had at the very start against Bohemia and Hungary, you should start your war against the Venetians. If the Venetians have Telia in the trade league, I would seriously co-belligerate them, quite simply because it is preferred to eat Telia before they eat you. But in all honesty, Telia is part of your state here, and they usually get some insanely good allies, so it's best to just take care of them whilst you can, before they actually do become a threat. Venice also gets attacked by Ottomans a lot, so if they are at war with the Ottomans, that is a good opportunity to attack them at the same time. You will most likely not be able to get their capital city of Venice, since their fleet is definitely superior to yours. So if you are in the similar situation with me, you should peace out Telia and annex it, so you don't need to bother with that in the future. And when it comes with the peace treaty with Venice, I would take pretty much all of their Adriatic holdings by the Bosnian and Serbian shores. This basically means that in the future war, we're only gonna have to bother with the main Venetian part here. Also would recommend giving back as much land as you possibly can to the Milanese. Once the Shadow Kingdom Imperial incident triggers, you're gonna have two options. First one would be to abandon the HRE holdings in northern Italy, or the second one is to rein in the Italians. I will let you make that decision, but if you ask me, it probably is better to just let them get out of the HRE so that you can re-invite them afterwards and get some free Imperial authority. It is a bit of a cheese move, but that is also why I didn't take any of the provinces that you would normally take to actually keep northern Italy in the HRE. Once they leave the HRE, you're gonna have an easy time inviting all of the smaller nations such as Bologna, Florence, Lucca, and Siena. You might have a harder time with bigger nations like Venice who already hate you, and Milan, but having the north of Italy leave the HRE also means that if you don't want to bring them back into the HRE sphere, you can also just directly own this land, especially since it is extremely rich in trade, and you do have some missions through which you would have to own the northern parts of Italy as well as Switzerland and connect your lands here by either going through Constance and Brigance or simply through Switzerland itself. If you take my approach and you just take the Venetian holdings by the Adriatic, that means you can easily attack Herzegovina, Bosnia, and Serbia, take them out, and then you have a clear path to the Ottomans. Austria probably has the best mission tree I've ever seen in this game, and I can tell that for the 1.30 update, since they are the main focus of the update, Paradox have really done a great job with this mission tree. You have a lot of opportunities, and it revolves around getting a lot of personal unions, vassals, and just keeping a firm grasp on the HRE itself. In order to have the whole mission tree filled, you're gonna have to stay the Emperor of the HRE, and in order to do this, you're gonna have to rein in all of the miners in the HRE. There are missions such as a balance of power, which you can easily get, but I don't recommend getting them. I don't recommend taking them even if you can take them. For example, Imperial Ascendancy gives you minus 10% Diplo annexation cost, which is stackable with other costs like the balance of power and the widespread dynasty. So once you start integrating your PUs and vassals that you'll get in the future, it's gonna be a lot faster doing it once you get these sweet boosts from filling various missions. Austria is also going to be one of the first nations to fill up its first idea slot, so I would really recommend going for diplomatic ideas. The whole Austria gameplay revolves around diplomacy,